It's me, your Void. And I need a haircut. This is going to be my April wrap-up. As you can see, I am sitting down and I'm going to talk about a bunch of books. This is not a vlog-style wrap-up because there was no time for me in April to film in between packing boxes, carrying boxes, unpacking boxes, building furniture, buying furniture. We have so many works in progress. I did not have time to film, so you get a little sit-down video of me talking about my April reads because I don't want to repeat last year where all of my April reads were a mystery to everyone but myself because I just didn't film a video. So here we are. Long story short, wrap up. Here we go. So April was Orilium, and I did in fact finish all of my reads for Orilium in April, which is great, because that means I only have to do it one more time to graduate as a Feywild cartographer and demonologist. The pain is almost over. So what did I read this month? I did a lot. 13 books in total, to be exact. I don't remember the book and prompt connections I made. I only remember that I read all of the books on my TBR, and then I realized I'm running out of time because the month only had 5 days left and I hadn't even started a 500 plus page book, so I switched that out. There were a couple of switches at the end of it, but for the most part, I stuck to what I said I would be reading. So yay me! Also, this is the first time this year that I'm actually switching shit on my TBR. And not just because I don't want to read them, but because I was actively running out of time. Okay? I'm good this year. I'm good this year. So anyways, what did I read? Well, I read 3 Murderbot entries, namely Artificial Condition, the 2nd book, Rogue Protocol, the 3rd book, and Exit Strategy, the 4th book. All of these were fantastic, just like the first one. I am deeply in love with the Murderbot series now. I'm going to read the next 2 installments as well, hopefully sooner than later. All of them I gave 4.5 stars because yes. I am deeply in love with everything Murderbot does. It's good shit. It's just good shit. I don't really remember what each and every one was about because I literally listened to each and every one of them. I listened to them on audio and I listened to them like back to back to back, so everything kind of blurred together into one big story. Doesn't matter, right? So yeah, all of those 4.5 stars. Good shit. Good shit. Listen to Murderbot. Listen to Murderbot. Then, while I was listening to those when I was walking the dog of my aunt, I craved a physical read, so I picked up Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. And I have to tell you, this is extremely boring. This is the first time James has disappointed me because I got this as a recommendation from James. It is so boring, and I'm saying that as someone who is currently in his romance era. If you have been around for a hot second, you know that in February I picked up romances and I fell in love with the genre. I read so many romances this year. This one included, but this one is the worst one yet. This is, it is so boring. The premise should be exactly what I love. We have a lady she's a ghostwriter and she can see ghosts, but she's like ignoring this ability because she gets headaches from it or something. I don't know. I don't care. And she has a new editor, and he is apparently very hot, and they get off on the wrong foot, and then she is traveling back home because her dad died, and she has to help out with the funeral, and then she sees him, and she realizes he's a ghost. Not her dad. Her dad has moved on. Her dad is peacefully dead, but her new editor is dead, and she sees his ghost, and they do things together. I don't even know what they did together. That is the thing that makes this so boring. Our main character is planning a funeral and is trying to resolve shit with her family and the small town she's from and stuff. She is aided in this quest by her editor, who is seemingly dead. But it is so slow and it never goes anywhere. So the whole story relies on the dynamic between the editor and the ghostwriter, which is funny at first, but then it loses all of its drive, and the way they fall in love with each other also doesn't really make sense. Like, it just like they're talking, they're talking way too much, and then suddenly they realize they have feelings for each other, but because he is dead, they immediately know there cannot be anything between them. And here's the kicker. I clocked the plot twist at the end so early on, and I clocked it because a romance will never dare to have a bad ending, and B, it was just very obvious. Because he doesn't behave like all the other ghosts the ghostwriter has met before. So I clocked that plot twist right from the get-go. And the second plot twist I also clocked from the get-go. The only thing I didn't clock was the connection between the two plot twists. So this was incredibly boring. I don't usually do that, but I skipped whole sections of this. I skipped so much of this book. So yeah, this was a 2-star. The humor was fun, but only because I like me a bad pun, and there are a lot of bad puns in here. I don't know. I don't know. The writing style was fine, I guess. But yeah, 2 stars, not a big fan of this. You wronged me, James. You did me dirty with this one. The next thing I read was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and I gave that one 3 stars. It's a solid middle grade read. Again, I am not the target audience for middle grades, and yeah. I think this is a very good alternative if you don't want to expose your children to Harry Potter, because it has the same kind of setup. It's about a girl who doesn't know about magical shit until the day something weird happens, and then she learns there's a whole magical society, and then she goes to like a summer camp where they train these kids in magical stuff, and they all have their own little magical abilities, and there's a little mystery in there. Again, I clocked the plot twist kind of from the get-go, but it's a middle grade, so I can't forgive that. It's a cute little read. I like the thought of having a half dragon shifter roommate. That was kind of cute. I just think the whole concept is just the right amount of whimsical to make it work. Like, I could imagine those trains under the water. I could imagine that Atlantis is somewhere out there just chilling. I could imagine this giant secret organization hub that is training these children to become superhero agents. So cool. The concept is amazing. And I gave that 3 stars, and I will continue with this trilogy, which is something I don't usually say about middle grade stuff. The next thing I read was something I was very, very, very excited for. It was actually one of the few anticipated things I had on my list for this year, which is Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. I loved Butcher and Blackbird. I really enjoyed Leather and Lark, and Scythe and Sparrow was kind of disappointing, especially when compared with the other two. It is still a solid read. It's still a solid read, but it feels almost like an afterthought to the other 2 books. One, because it doesn't take place around the other 2 books. Like, they take place in, I think, Boston mainly, and this takes place in, I think, Nebraska or somewhere. Yes, Nebraska. So, like, somewhere completely different. And there is the killing in here. Like, the whole shtick of the Ruinous Love trilogy is that you have serial killers falling in love. Up until the end, when someone spelled it out for me, I didn't realize that the titular Sparrow is a serial killer. Because the whole thing, how she finds her way into his, like, sphere, is that she botches a killing. And the way she describes it, we're the first person, the way she described it is as if she never did this before. So I didn't clock that she's technically a serial killer all the way until the end. That was very weird, and the whole relationship between them, I don't know. It doesn't help that this book takes place in the background, basically, of Butcher, Blackbird, and Leather and Lark. Like, the main character, Fionn, shows up in these 2 books because we basically follow these 3 brothers as they fall in love with serial killers. The thing is, he is a background character in here, he's a background character in here, so this makes this book, where we see what is happening in the background, in the foreground, feel like this is just to fill in the gaps. It kind of feels like Bryn Weaver wrote these 2, and then she was like, okay, I need more material, there's a 3rd brother I already hinted at, and then she's telling his story just because she didn't have anything else to tell? And that's what this book feels like. So I didn't totally vibe with it all, and yeah, it's definitely the weakest entry in the whole series, in my opinion. This is one of those series, the first book, amazing, the second book's still good, but okay, and the third book is just like kind of a letdown compared to the other 2. On its own, solid read. Together, it's just a weak link. But Bryn Weaver said she keeps the door open to do more in this, like, world, I guess, and I will eat it up when it comes out. So I gave Scythe and Sparrow a solid 3 star. Again, it's the weak link in this trilogy. But with that, everyone be proud of me. I read a whole trilogy. I finished out a series. Hold for applause. Thank you. And then for the big boy that has made it onto a second round of the Orilium TBRs, and this time it was actually read, Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. He says it in the acknowledgements. This is not a Star Wars novel, but it definitely originated back at the beginning in a series of conversations about Star Wars. And you can feel that. This is like the epitome of sci fantasy. It is literally a fantasy novel, but it kind of reads like a sci-fi novel, but at the same time it doesn't. It's so weird, and I love it. And in typical Django Wexler fashion, the humor is just, it's so flat in the most punny way possible. I loved everything about this. The thing is, the plot doesn't really make sense because it kind of reads like two books in one. On the one hand, we follow Geyer, who is like doing he's like doing a little Robin Hood shtick with the end goal of getting the funds and the clues and the old weaponry to dismantle the system because they stole his sister. He never once tries to save his sister because he just knows she is lost. She was taken from his family at the age of 5 and then raised by the Order, so he knows she is lost. There is no way he can like save her and then make her see the world like he sees it. So he doesn't even try. And that is kind of cool because usually you always have these like rescue missions then going on. So he is doing a Robin Hood shtick to help the people in his vicinity, but at the same time he's using this Robin Hood shtick to find clues where he could find some ancient weaponry that might be strong enough to destroy the Order once and for all, so no siblings in the future are being ripped apart and shit. And then you have the story of his sister, Maya, who is at the end of her training to become this cool soldier superhero entity within the Order, and she's following her master, and then shit goes down, and then there's political stuff in the background and machinations between the good side and the evil side, and then Maya ends up in like having to defend herself and having to go on missions to find her master because she disappeared and is like wanted for murder. So it's two very distinct stories in one book, and at certain points they intersect, but they don't really have anything to do with each other than Maya and Geyer end up at the same place at the same time sometimes throughout this novel. But the world building is really cool, and the character work is also amazing. The character work does a lot of the heavy lifting because these plots are so removed from each other, and it's like reading two things at the same time. And while I was reading, I was waiting for the moment that these storylines would intersect, and I thought when they did that we would go forward with both of them at the same time, but we didn't. They met and went away again. They met and went away again. And even in the end, they come together, they defeat the big baddie, basically, only to then separate paths because they know they can't work together. They are literally on opposite sides of the spectrum. So they make this deal to let each other go, but the next time they see each other, they will fight. And they are still pursuing their individual goals of trying to figure out what is happening in the political scheming things on the one side, in the Order, and trying to dismantle the whole system on the other side. So yeah, a solid read, but it doesn't really go anywhere. This is one of those books where I'm pretty sure that you have to read like the whole thing to make it make sense. And this book is solid enough for me to want to read the other two books in the trilogy. So there we go. I gave this 4 stars because again the characters carry it and the world building is amazing. Then I read The Dragon of New Orleans, which is one of those books I picked up for Stuff Your Kindle Day eons ago, but this one actually came through. It was a solid read. I liked it. The magic was amazing, the vibes between the characters was amazing, the world building was amazing, although I could do with a little less world, like dimension hopping that was kind of weird and randomly thrown in there. It was connected enough to make sense. It just felt very weird. It felt like taking you out of the novel. So there was that. I love the romance. The whole storyline with the cancer. When I read that in the blurb, I wasn't really sure what to think of it. But that whole part resolves in like the first couple of chapters. So that was nice. I was very concerned when I read that. I was like, oh, is this going to be like a fully fleshed out cancer story? Because I don't know that I'm in the mood for reading that. But it wasn't. And it's also not one of these mindlessly smutty things. It actually takes a hot second to get there. Like the romance is established before we head to the smut and stuff. And I also like the fact that we have an instant fascination, not an insta-lust or insta-love situation. It is very much these two characters are fascinated with each other and they don't know why. And while they explore this fascination with each other, they realize okay, I actually like this person, and we go from there. So that was kind of nice. This is one of those series I'm not sure I want to continue, because it's like it's again this normal ass romance thing where you have like this pairing, this pairing, this pairing, this pairing, this pairing, and they're somehow connected. In this case, I think it's like 7 or 8 dragon siblings, and they find love in this reality. But I think for this series specifically, I'm happy to leave it at this one book. It was a solid read. I enjoyed my time with it, but I don't think I want to commit to a 9-book series, as good as it was. So I gave this a 3.5, and I don't think I will pick up the other books in the series. Nothing wrong with the book itself, it's just I don't see myself being interested enough in going through with it, knowing that I have issues with continuing series. Another series-ish I won't continue with is Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is one of the things I had to switch out. This I specifically remember because finding a switch out for this was kind of difficult, because this is the random country generator prompt, and I had to pick something from Nigeria, and the thing I picked was like a 300 or 400 page book, and I again ran out of time at the end of the month, so I switched and picked up Binti, which is a 70 something page novella, I think, about a girl who is good at math, and she runs away from home to do math at a university, and on her way there she is attacked by these weird alien creatures that are only known to bring death and destruction, except that she somehow manages to communicate with them and figure shit out, and she doesn't get killed, but instead she basically brokers a peace between her people, or between humans and these weird jellyfish beings. I will not continue with this, however, because it's this, I don't know, it's very math heavy. It's like spiritual math, and I didn't really vibe with that. And it also, like, especially the beginning of her like running away because she wants to do math, gave me the vibes of Foundation. If you watch the show, which is it's a great show, you should watch the Foundation show. If it happens in the books, I never read the books, I only know it happens in the show. That is specifically how one of the main characters starts out. She runs away from home to do math on a galactic scale. So all I can think of while reading Binti was Foundation. Yeah, I don't know which came first. I know the books Foundation definitely came before Binti, and I know it's not supposed to be the same. They're like two very different stories, but like the connections were so strong to the show star that I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And it's math. I don't vibe with math if it's anything beyond doing stuff I need for D&D, so all of that spiritual math kind of ticked me off. Like, I just didn't vibe with anything that was in this novella, so I'm not going to read the other 2 novellas. It was a nice, solid read, I guess, but if it were a total book, I probably would have DNF'd the book. So I only finished it because it was a novella. Gave it 3 stars, low 3 stars probably, but again, I'm not continuing with the trilogy. I just didn't vibe with it. Nothing wrong with it, it wasn't my vibe, you know? Another switch I had to make was the second dragon prompt, because for that I had the 500 plus page book on my TBR that I just knew I couldn't finish in like 2 days or something. So I switched it out for a cute little comic, which is T-Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill, and oh my god, this is so cute. This is so cute. This is that. I'm definitely going to read the other volumes of this because oh my god, it is so cute. I want all of the T-Dragons now. Oh my god. It is just this cute little comic about a girl who is trying to become a blacksmith like her mom, and one day she is on her way back home and she finds a little T-Dragon, and because she likes to take care of little things, she just picks it up and takes care of it, and then she tries to find the T-Dragon's home, and she finds the T-Dragon's home, and it turns out the art of taking care of T-Dragons is a dying art, so she takes interest in it, and this guy who owns that T-Dragon and his boyfriend, husband, I don't know, also has a T-Dragon, and they teach her how to take care of a T-Dragon, and by the end she gets her own T-Dragon, and they revive the whole T-Dragon society, because once upon a time there was like a whole group of them, and they did T-Dragon society things, and then they all died, and the dragons remain, and it's only the 2 of them, and then this girl comes around, and there's another girl who like has memory issues, and they raise T-Dragons together. Ah! It's so cute! I gave that one 4 stars. Simply because it was cute! The next thing I read was probably the oddest one on the whole TBR pile I had, for so many reasons. And that is Odd Ordeals, a bizarre dark comedy by Riley Odell. And this is a collection of short stories, very short. Like every one of these is very short. And you have like this whole author's note in the front that this collection only exists because they didn't know where else to put it. And it shows! Because how the fuck do you put these things anywhere? And it's just a bunch of very bizarre comedy, horror shorts. And I found myself snort laughing at some of these. Some of these things are just so stupid and so bizarre. Again, in the author's note, all of these stories were born out of looking at something mundane, seemingly mundane, and realizing how whack it is. Humans are whack as fuck. The world we made for ourselves is whack as fuck. And that's where these stories came from. Just mundane things being whack as fuck. And it's like there was a woman haunted by banana peels and bad things happened all around her because of banana peels. And then one guy who had like the weirdest butt fetish was almost killed by a sentient life-size, like human-sized cigarette butt. And the Easter Bunny eats flesh, but you can appease him if you give his wife a naked succubus witch chocolate. It was so weird. It was so weird. Like the weirdest shit ever. I was thoroughly entertained. I can tell you that. Do I know what the fuck I read? No, but I was entertained. I gave it 3 stars for that exact reason. I was entertained, I just don't know what the fuck I read. The second to last read I had in April was a continuation of my ventures through the Creature Cafe series by Cleo Evans with Little Song of Pain. That's the 6th installment of the Creature Cafe series, and in this one we follow Phoenix twins and the human that the barista decided is going to be their mate, and that was also a solid read. Less smutty. Kind of less smutty than the other Creature Cafe series entries. I think if you compare it percentage-wise, it's probably going to be just the same amount of smut, but there is more action plot. The action plot was actually more solid than in previous installments, and I actually have to say this was like the most solid Creature Cafe entry since the first one, Little Slice of Hell, in my opinion. Was a big fan of their dynamic as a trio. The thing is, it says there is taboo things, and the taboo thing in here is that phoenixes work differently, and these twins are also in a relationship with each other, even though they are twin brothers. But that was never really shown. Like, usually when Cleo Evans says, okay, there is going to be this kind of dynamic, you get that kind of dynamic also in the bedroom, in a smut scene. We kind of didn't get that. The boys never crossed swords. It didn't tick me off. It was just something I was expecting to see in a Cleo Evans work, and it didn't show up. So that kind of confused me almost. But yeah, the dynamic between Icarus, Dalos, and Melody is just, yes, I really like that one. And I like that now we have like the impact of the background plot with the barista and Lucifer. And holy shit, the barista getting angry, no pun intended, might have been the hottest thing in this whole novella. 3.5 stars. I am looking forward to where this is going. And the last read I finished literally a couple of minutes away from midnight on the 30th of April is Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert. This is the 3rd book in the Dark Olympus series, and there was no reason for me to take 30 days to read this. I started it at the beginning of the month and I finished it at the end of the month. There was no reason for me to do that. It was a solid read. It was a really good read, and as always with Katie Robert, I fly through this once I pick it up. I do this a lot of times with books that I read like the first half, then I pick up a completely different book and I read the second half. It's definitely not the book's fault. It's definitely a me problem. I gave this one 4 stars. The competition element in here is actually kind of good because it was more like a background plot to move the characters into position, to have them confront each other, to have them interact with each other, to have them discover, oh shit, we're actually kind of good together. And I really love the fact that all of them work through their own flaws. The flaws of each character is highlighted to the extreme, and they all work through it, and they work through it together. They have to work through it because only in this triad they can work through it, because they need the other 2 perspectives to see the flaw and realize how to work through it, because the other 2 don't only see the flaw and point it out, but they also give you solutions of how to work through it. That was a very, very good thing. I think Katie Robert is amazing at writing triads. The triad triad in the Wicked Villain series, Learn My Lesson, was also just really good. It was a really good triad. Katie Robert needs to write more triads, in my opinion. The one thing I have to criticize actively in this one is all of these characters are kind of whiny in a very repetitive way. Achilles is always whining about the fact that Patroclus is too much in his head. Patroclus is always whining too much about the fact that Achilles is so reckless, and both of them are whining too much about Helen being a victim of emotional abuse in the past. She's working through it on her own, but she recognizes that she still falls into the old patterns under certain circumstances, and she was emotionally abused by her dad, and then she was emotionally abused by her ex-boyfriend. So there are deep scars and she's actively working through it, but she also recognizes when she is falling back into it. And the boys are always whining about the fact that she had to go through that. It's not that they are whining about, yes, that she's like suffering when she's suffering. They very much push her to acknowledge when she needs help, but they are whining about the fact that she deserved so much better and that like the whole thing, like, it's all very repetitive. Achilles is reckless. Achilles is reckless. Achilles is reckless. Patroclus is in his head. Patroclus is in his head. Patroclus is in his head. And this is Helen's past speaking. This is Helen's past speaking, and she can't get over it. She can't get over it while she's actively getting over it. So that was a bit that was a bit of a letdown, a bit repetitive. That is the one critique I had, but everything else about this book is just fun. As someone who doesn't like competitions in books, this was actually done very well. The competition itself was like not the main focus, which I very much appreciated, and I gave this a solid 4-star for this book. Yay! And that is my wrap up for my spring equinox of Orilium 2025. And I am very much looking forward to being able to abandon such a big TBR in the future. Just one more time, just one more round, one more, then I'm done. Then I can pick something easy. But yeah, I had a solid reading month, despite certain letdowns. But yeah, solid reading month. I very much enjoyed it. I very much am still hurting from moving. Everything hurts, and we still have like a couple hundred things to get done in this house. But yeah, April is over, and I'm very glad that it is. If you made it this far into the video, let me know if you have read any of these books, what your opinions are on these books. If you don't have anything to say, leave a crystal ball emoji down in the comments, and I guess I will see you in the next video. Bye!